two issues I'd like to raise. The first sentence around pay protection. I understand the need to retain existing senior member staff and keep the organisation stable, to keep the knowledge, and all the rest. I understand that. And I also read in the report that 16 potential cases where we could have pay protection, or an average of £9,000, and that potentially is £144,000 worth of pay protection. I'm quite keen to make sure that we pay for the role and not the person, actually. And if that person has skills about the role, then perhaps they should go for a job elsewhere where they can apply those skills and get greater pay. That's what normally happens. So, is there any assurance officers can give me in terms of pay protection, and perhaps having a cap on it, or perhaps over time that those who are being paid in excess of the salary of the benchmark, over time that actually goes away?
Through you, Chairman. The figures that you referred to in 6.2.3, that was at the start of the application process. So as people progress through that talent process, we will see that number just naturally decline. So that was a worst case scenario with the applicants at the outset. I think probably the thing that I would say is that we need to be thinking about because pay has been relatively high within the council historically, plus we need to retain some of the talent. We do need to provide some form of pay protection, but probably what we need to do is to think about actually how long that should be in place and manage it in that way. So there's an end point to it rather than being open-ended. I think if we didn't have pay protection at all, I think we would risk losing particularly talented people who maybe just happen to be beneficiaries of a relatively generous pay scheme at that point in time. And I don't think that would be helpful. The other point I would make is that we would most definitely not protect any historic pay protection that they might bring with them. It would only be pay protection from their previous job.
Thank you. That's reassurance. Thank you. The second point that I'll ask on this paper is the last committee I asked for the difference between what would an entry-level successful candidates be earning in terms of a percentage of the competent level, acknowledging that they're not yet competent and got some obviously got potential. I gathered in the report 9.7 talks about a 10% banding difference between the bandings. So does that relate to bandings of roles or to bandings of competency and entry level?
That relates to when you look at the table on page 17, what you've got is that 10% or capped at £10,000. And the idea is that when you come in, then there will be two levels to progress. That will be managed, the progression through that will be managed on a performance basis against objectives meeting the requirements of the job. So it would be within the manager's gift to be making that assessment. It would not be automatic. In regard to I know that there was a discussion last time about 10%, how much money is it. What I can confirm is we actually went back and sought professional advice on that, and the advice that came back that it should be about 10%. However, when we applied that to the higher range, it became a very large sum, so we capped it at £10,000.
Thank you, Jim.
Following on from Council Thomas's first point, 4.6 talks about the council paying range midpoint between medium and lower quartile. The next paragraph, 4.6, talks about reward mechanisms. 6.1.2 talks about pay protection. 6.1.5 talks about personal contracts but dependent on the employer's length of qualifying for service. That's to do with annual leave and sick pay. 6.1.6 talks about market supplement if required, and so throughout the whole report. Can we have your assurance that the senior officers won't end up earning more?
I can't actually give directly that assurance because there is one place where the job size is doubling, but I can assure you that the bill at every level in the organisation will be lower than that. It would not be acceptable to pay somebody who is running what's previously done by two directors exactly the same salary that we get that person to stay. However, I can assure you that no post will be able to benchmark.
I can provide also an absolute assurance because when we pitch the pay point, that is below where we currently pay. So essentially, if you're doing the same size job, you will be paid less money from when this comes into force, assuming the committee accepts this tonight. And then the second point, some people may get paid more, but that's because they will be taking on a bigger job and have been promoted. But again, they would come in and work their way through those ranges. So, there's an expectation that if you go for a promotion, that there would be some sort of increase there. But if you're doing the same size job, you will receive less money.
And another point on this same subject, you indicated that pay protection will probably be time limited. How long a time?
I think we need to build in some discretion on this because we need to see who comes through the talent mapping process and what the amount of pay protection is that might be required. Because if you have a particular individual who's going into a job, as I say, through historic issues, has received a generous salary, it may be that we need to finesse that. Now, clearly, we've got equalities issues built into that. We've got to be very mindful, but I think rather than having a set formula, I think we should allow ourselves a little bit of discretion.
Let's just lead a little bit into the next agenda item, in that the intention is that the January meeting does receive a pay and award report from myself and the AD for HR. And I would suggest that one of the issues that we need to be considered on an annual basis would be that interface between council and law's earlier question about market supplements and the issue about pay protection, which is another way of asking the question, is our current pay and award strategy actually holding up out there in the marketplace, and is it fit for the organisation? Well, I would suggest that this is a matter that the committee could ask us to bring forward on an annual basis.
Suggestions, because we will obviously be looking at the use of pay of those very senior officers on a more regular basis than we've done here before. And I think that would cover the nitty-gritty there. Okay, so can we take the report as well? Thank you. Formal vote like that.
I'll just explain this legally. As well as agreeing a pay strategy, we are required to actually vote on the 9 posts annually to agree them. There's an interesting question about what would happen if we didn't, particularly in the council that wasn't restructuring, but we are still required to do this.
Sorry, before we just take that vote, how many posts are there at the moment on 100k?
Top of my head,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. Is this a substantial going up?
We're thinking about 11 posts currently.
Thank you. So it is a reduction. Good. Okay. Can we vote on this item there, please? There's one. Do you need to vote on? Do you need to vote on all 3 or one on the spot?